Look at us, for example. We're state-of-the-art. Controlled metabolisms, computer-enhanced brains, cybernetic bodies. Not long ago, this was science fiction. So what if we can't survive without regular high-level maintenance? Who are we to complain? I suppose an occasional tune-up is a small price to pay for all this.
I'm afraid we've both signed our bodies and ghosts away to Section 9.
True. If we ever quit or retire, we'd have to give back our augmented brains and cyborg bodies. There wouldn't be much left after that.
Welcome to the Real Comic Heroes Podcast. Your adventure into the world of comic book movies starts here.
Greetings, citizens, and welcome to another adventure of the Real Comic Heroes Podcast. My name's Travis.
And I'm Patrick with a special guest today.
Me. I'm back.
You.
It's Johnie. I am back.
Hey.
I had to come back, I promised, because it's Ghost in the Shell. So
Yeah,
Absolutely,
Travis told me you had quite the reaction to us doing Ghost in the Shell, so glad to have
he was
you.
like, yeah, and next is Ghost in the Shell. I went, excuse me, can I come back? I'm like the MXM resident anime person, so
Nice. All right. Yeah, Travis tends to be out of his element with anime.
A little bit, yeah.
So it's nice to know more than him on occasion, so this is more my wheelhouse as well.
that's exciting.
So I get to feel super nerdy now. Just because I don't know the trash compactor monster's name in Star Wars. God. Didn't even know it had a name.
I didn't either.
It's the Dianoga. How many times have I got to tell you, Patrick?
When you said that, I thought you were messing with me.
Yeah.
Like I thought you were just, you know.
I never joke around about the Dianoga.
Okay. Anywho,
Yeah.
so what are we here to talk about, Travis?
A little film called Ghost in the Shell.
Oh, the one with Scarlett Johansson.
I knew you were going to make that joke right off the bat early.
I still haven't seen it out of protest.
I haven't either.
I have.
Yeah. Okay.
Ooh.
It's just funny how much they like riffed from here.
Sure.
This movie. There's like frame by frame scenes sometimes, so
Oh, yeah. I bet. I mean, you almost have to with a movie like this, though. Like, I think you'd tick off people if you didn't, but then you're ticking off people because you did. So it's a bad situation.
what is it that Liz said in the group chat yesterday? Oh, she said you messed with the weebs and you can't mess with the weebs. So
Weeps.
that's where you draw the
Oh,
line.
man.
You can't mess
Yeah.
with us. So
Yeah.
All right. So, yes.
I guess, let's start with the history. You know, do you guys remember seeing it for the first time?
I do.
Yeah.
It was 21 years ago.
Right.
And I know that because I got to college and there was an anime club, and that was literally the first anime movie that I saw that had boobies.
Of course, yeah.
And it didn't shy away from that from
Yeah.
the start. And I was like, what the hell am I watching? It definitely threw me off.
Yeah.
It took me about 3 viewings to kind of understand what I was hearing and, well, actually reading and watching. But, you know, there's a reason it's up there with, like, Akira as far as anime untouchable type
Sure.
films. But yeah, I just remember it because it was like my first foray out of like Dragon Ball Z and like stuff like that.
Okay.
So definitely watched more complicated movies after that, but this was my first jump into that world.
Okay. I remember watching this at the time kind of for the same, reason. Like I would stay up and for some reason, I always remember either Sci-Fi Channel or Cartoon Network would run.
Toonami.
Yep.
Yeah, maybe it was Toonami. But yeah,
Yeah,
they
it's
would
Cartoon
run,
Network.
Yeah. They would run, anime movies late Saturday nights. So that's where I first saw stuff like
Okay.
Akira and this and like Vampire Hunter D and Venus Wars and stuff like that. And this was one that I would watch, not knowing anything, not really understanding anything that was going on, but, being like 14, 15 years old, and it's like, oh, boobs. Okay, awesome. And so it took a while to, realize there was more going on than that. And I honestly haven't seen this movie probably since then. So this was kind of my first real viewing of the movie, I would say, like where I really paid attention to what was going on and understood what the story was. And from a story point of view, it's completely different than what I was expecting. So I'll get into that. But Johnny, what about you?
Toonami too, but I can't remember exactly when. Obviously, probably way earlier than I should have.
Sure.
That tends to happen when it comes to anime, because I would just like, if you're up when the Toonami switch happens, you're going from like kids cartoons to like, what's happening? I've never seen this type of TV made cartoon like based television before.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think I saw it around the same time that I first saw Spirited Away, because it was also like one of those like heavy existential things. And my brain was like, I don't understand. All right, I like this. Let's keep going with this. And then that's the lifelong anime fan happened. So
nice. And did you say you've read the manga?
We had it at the house. It is thick.
Yeah.
Like thick with like 4 C's thick, like masterful. But that's probably because, and I was gonna say this later, but like the manga writer, he started out doing doujinshi, so like he's a super nerd too, so that means like he self-published stuff. So he was just wanting to do it so bad and loved manga and anime so much that he started before he got on. So he did things before Ghost in the Shell. Yeah, it's an intimidating volume to look at. So like I was just like, maybe one day I'll read this.
That's how I feel about the Silmarillion, or Tolkien stuff. It's like I can totally read Lord of the Rings or Hobbit, anytime, but I just can't get into that much like back history and stuff like that. It's so much. So
audiobook.
Yeah.
Doesn't work for manga.
Yeah.
So
I guess you could try, see what happens. Use the power of imagination. I don't know.
Yeah.
Have it there for inspiration. I don't know.
I would only entertain it if they got Motoko's voice, her English voice, to read the manga or like novelization potentially of it.
Yeah, that was the weird thing with this, is I'm used to subtitles and not dubbed.
Okay.
And the version that I had on Amazon was dubbed, or not Amazon, Vudu was dubbed, and I was just it didn't feel right for some reason, just because I'm so used to reading subtitles. So it took me at least like 20 minutes to get out of my head about that.
It's so much easier for note taking though if you can hear.
It is.
If you can understand what you're hearing as opposed to reading.
Yeah, and that's why I stuck with it. I'm like, well,
yeah.
I can't like look away if I'm. Yeah, but it's just so ingrained now. It's like weird seeing it dubbed.
Yeah.
I guess like it's the opposite for me. Like Ghost in the Shell was one of the only anime that I liked better dubbed.
Okay.
Maybe that's because that's the first time I like consumed it. It was dubbed.
Sure.
But the thing that like hammered at home is like, for those voice actors, they continually bring them back. They are forever the dub actors for the rest of the Ghost in the Shell series. So I like that they're like, hey, you're going to come back and be the major, right? And like, you're going to come back and be Bato, right? And they just keep coming back, which I think makes me in my head, in my heart, they are them. So yeah. I'm cool with it.
Oh yeah, I mean that totally makes sense. It's just yeah, I guess I'm set in my ways and just
don't get me wrong. I'm a subbed over dubbed always, but
Yeah.
it's just there are very special cases like this one.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the dubbed usually I get annoyed with because I can hear the same like dubbed actors doing every character, it seems like.
Oh.
So I think that's where it comes from. But yeah, I had no problem with it here. It just took me like a couple tries to get my brain around it.
Patrick, were there any taglines that you found for this?
Yeah. Yeah, there were. Okay. So let's do this. First one makes sense. We got it found a voice, now it needs a body.
Yep.
I like the word it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Very interesting. People love machines in 2029 AD. I don't know if that's a translation
Oh, okay.
thing, maybe.
I saw
'cause it
that
just-
somewhere, and I didn't realize that was something that
yeah,
they used
it
as a
just feels
tagline.
weird.
Yeah.
I don't know. It doesn't feel normal. But what are you? Who slips into my robot body and whispers to my ghost?
Is that something she says while they're on the boat? When she kind of like has a moment where it's not
Where
really
the
her speaking?
voice, the inner voice thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is that
no,
what she
I don't.
something like that maybe?
I don't remember it being worded that way.
Okay.
And then it's oh yeah, they just redid the voice and body thing again. So yeah, that's
okay.
about it.
All right. Yeah, I like that first one.
Yeah,
It
it's
has a
found
voice. It needs a body. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that basically tells you what's up. A little spoilery, but
Yeah. Well, I love the way the movie opens. You know, the action scene, the little stunt. I mean, it's just a beautiful scene, little action beat. But I like the way that the tension builds because you've got her set up, kind of monitoring the situation. You've got Bato and is it Togusa in the car? Like they're keeping an eye on, like, or about to send in troops, and then you've got the stuff going on with the ambassador, and that kind of keeps cutting away. And even when she drops in, like, it still cuts away to, like, the goons in the hallway drawing their weapons, which are just awesome because they're like these briefcase guns. So I like the way it doesn't just throw you into an action scene. Like it builds up the tension really well.
oh yeah, I mean it's a heck of a opening.
Yeah.
It's probably one of my favorites.
I just feel like at the beginning you are immediately sucked in because you're like, I don't know what is this? What are all of these weapons? What kind of, like, you don't know what's going on, like what government organization or police presence this is, like Section 6, Section 9, like nothing makes sense.
Yeah. I wrote down early on, when you're dealing with like ambassadors and people seeking political asylum, that I was very lost, and then I realized, that part of the story doesn't really matter. This isn't a movie about, the government and this and that. Like, so some of that stuff early on, I was like, what I don't understand what's going on, Section 9, Section 6, this ambassador story. And then once I realized this is a story about artificial intelligence trying to, establish itself as a new life form, like, okay, I totally get this, and I am on board 100%. But early on here, I'm just like, I don't know who's on whose side and what is going on, especially like when in that action beat, when Major kind of drops into the room and takes out the, I think he's the ambassador. Like she shoots him in the head, and then he blows up, and you can see cybernetic parts in him, and his head blows up. So it's like, okay, so you get that first kind of clue that people aren't exactly normal. I mean, we've already seen that a little bit with her unplugging the back of her neck and that sort of thing. So
Yeah, I could see that because it does start off like you're jumping into like a Tom Clancy, like kind of spy government thriller or something.
Right, yeah.
Well, it's also, I guess, like when it comes to talking about the government, like agency aspect of it, it is more prevalent in the like series
Okay.
later on versus this is more of like an establishment of societal expectations of cyberization and like how people view it, and the more philosophical aspect of like ghosts and is this ethical or not kind of thing. And then later on you get to see, like watching the standalone complex series and the rest of the movies, that it really starts fleshing out Section 6.
Okay, that makes sense. With the series, you have more time to devote to things like that.
This is a quick movie. I mean,
it really
it's like 90
is.
minutes, so they get a lot in there in 90 minutes. So.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Especially considering that, you know, they kind of have these act breaks where, like, the first one is like 7 minutes of just music and slow-mo shots of her, like, you know, moving through the city and stuff like that. It's like you're devoting all this time, but it's definitely worth it. Like, it doesn't feel like the story suffers because of this, like, almost like an intermission.
It's weird. It's almost entrancing, like the music and the like the visuals. But yeah, it is weird to think about that now that it's only 90 minutes. That they spend that much time just with no dialogue whatsoever.
Yeah. The shot where she shoots this ambassador and just falls back towards the ground, and, you know, the guy has time to look out the window and be amazed that he says, like, thermal optic, you know, something like that. And as she's disappearing, and her, like, she's kind of out of phase visually with the background, and then they line up, and it's just a beautiful little sequence. And then it kicks into the opening credits, which, again, it's like in this 90-minute movie, you're devoting several minutes for this credit, you know, sequence, but it gives you so much, and then you realize, like, how much things like The Matrix and Westworld are borrowing from this. Mm-hmm. You know,
like the Westworld opener is like almost spot like for this opening scene, like, area. I was laughing, like, rewatching it last time. I was like, no, but, like, did they just watch this and decide to make Westworld like this? Yeah. Like,
well, that's kind of why there were several moments throughout watching this that made me really want to watch the live action Ghost in the Shell, because I'm really curious how they represented the stuff in live action. I want to see the movie kind of just for the visuals. I know that they changed her character, like the backstory of her character to justify, you know, having Scarlett Johansson play her, but I'm actually really interested now to see it just for the visuals.
Well, that if you particularly liked that shot or that, like, scene of her fighting with the nanotech like camouflage, that's what I'm saying. Like, they literally shot for shot that. Okay. It looks beautiful, like, to see. I don't know, to, like, just get your eyes to translate it to, like, real people and, like, non-animated art. I think they did a great job.
Okay.
It's, again, that, like, should you have casted not her? But it's also their argument too about that was, in a cyberized world, like, are you going to continue to make, like, ethnicities, or is it going to be like you can be whatever you like, whoever you want to be, like, you don't, it can be like a neutral ground. But I don't know, it was fun. The movie was fun.
Okay.
It was action packed. Did I miss the want and feeling of being out of my depth, having these crazy discussions about, like, life and souls? And yeah, I do, because the anime gets deeper and more in there than you can't make a blockbuster do that. Honestly.
Yeah. That's kind of why I'm a little bit glad that they've never really gotten a live action Akira off the ground. Mm-hmm. So, like,
I don't know how you would even do that.
Right. There's one sequence, like, right after the credits sequence, it transitions to her waking up in her apartment, the Major. And the way it's drawn, like, it's mostly the silhouette, you know, getting up out of bed. And for some reason, it looked the animation of that looked so real, and just the way she moves, like she kind of sits up in bed and like just casually like wipes her eyes a little bit or something, and it seems so real and so almost live action. You know, it almost seems like they just traced a live action performance, and then just her getting up out of bed, and again, it's mostly silhouetted against the window. And just, I don't know, just it felt so real and so like beautiful. Like it's really part of what sets this apart is how good the animation is, and throughout the whole movie, and the matte paintings and the backgrounds are incredible. So,
how did you feel about the CG aspects, where they had like a little computer graphics mixed in?
I didn't mind it because they used it mostly in like the heads-up displays, or when they're tracking vehicles throughout the kind of the chases and things like that, and it's kind of just in the opening credits. I feel like mostly so.
I feel like they like did an appropriate use.
Yeah,
it's in there for the viewers' benefit.
Yeah, I liked it just because it fits in with the movie's theme, with like kind of cell animation being organic, and then you get the computer generated artwork, so it kind of made sense.
Yeah. It's crazy to me that this is the same year that Toy Story comes out. This is 95, and watching this movie, it feels like it belongs in closer to like Akira, 86, 87, 80, somewhere in the late 80s. But so it's hard for me to wrap my head around like that it would have been a brand new movie almost when I saw it, and it just seems like it's so much an older story or more established. And but yeah, the stuff like the use of the CGI I think is appropriate, and it doesn't look dated to me, because most of it is it's being used in conjunction with like software that's tracking the people they're chasing or whatever. So
yeah, I guess the morning sequence kind of threw me off. I was like, wait, I thought she was like a machine. Why is she waking up? And did she plug in somewhere? I was because like the whole movie is just, she gives me like a vampire vibe because of the lack of blinking she does, and the lack of awareness of her body, like as far as a being, I guess a lack of caring about whether she's naked or not.
Okay, yeah.
Where you have the other guy that's like covering her up. Yeah, and like she's,
well, that's because it's Bato.
Yeah, and he's in love with her.
Yeah, and the entire series goes like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just funny because I don't think he's as far along as she is as far as a cybernetic being, and you can tell. But like she always gave me like a vampire vibe because of like, just, I don't know, there was some airiness about her that just didn't seem natural.
I think she's, besides some of the like auxiliary staff, I think she's one of the, if not the only fully cyberized member of Section 6.
Okay. Yeah, I think she's definitely the most on their team, and then you've got Bato, who's heavily modified. Yeah. And then they kept saying like is it Togusa? I keep forgetting.
Togusa.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like he has minor.
He's organic.
Yeah, and he's got minor, brain. They didn't say implants, but
it's like augments because how they can talk to each other and stuff.
Right.
Like yeah.
But I like that they talk about how it's important to have him on the team so that they can have the variety, and it helps with the randomness. And I like that.
If you specialize, you get stagnant and die, basically.
Yeah.
Which I think is like, that's like a huge foreshadowing for the rest of the movie for her. Of like, she truly believes that, but I also feel like when she's having that conversation, she's also starting to think like, maybe I'm getting stagnant too, because I am fully cyberized. She has no sense of self-preservation.
Oh, yeah.
And she's just like out there killing it. But I mean, she was this like there's like a precursor movie to this one too in the timeline. And she was a spy before this.
Oh.
So, yeah, there's like a whole timeline of movies that's completely out of order, which is, that happens in every franchise.
I'd be interested to find out what does she do when she's not on the clock? Because, yeah, it seems to me like she exists purely as a police officer, a part of this section. They're section 6, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Like it doesn't seem like she goes home and, watches a movie and things like that. But
I thought there was section 9. I thought 6 was
sorry, section 9. Sorry.
Yeah, okay.
And because I was thinking also at the same time you were talking about that, Travis, in the anime, in the series, she has friends.
Oh.
They don't really explain them a lot, but she goes, if she goes away from the squad, like she's always with like Bato and Ishikawa and Togusa and stuff, but when she goes away, there's like this house and there are just these like 2 women that live there that know her and love her, and like they're all like very sisterly.
Yeah.
/ could be a relationship. They kind of like leave that open-ended.
Sure.
But yeah, she does outside of work have somewhat of a life.
Yeah. See that she has an interest in like diving,
Yeah.
and that really surprises Bato.
Well, she's like a lead weight, and
yeah.
although I did like that she expressed like feeling in that, like he asked what it's like down there,
Yeah.
and she's got like fear and hope and all this other stuff that kind of goes against what I had originally thought, where she was just there is no feeling, because she sure as heck shows she doesn't have much of a feeling when she gets hurt, at least, but maybe it's more mentality wise she has feelings. It's weird because it is a shell,
Yeah.
I think, and nothing more. Like it does, like the sex of the robot or whatever doesn't matter. It's more inside of I guess we'll say the ghost, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
Which was a term that I was confused at the first time I watched this.
Oh, okay.
I was kind of curious what you guys thought the ghost in the shell was. Like,
yeah, they
the
kept
ghost
saying ghost, and I was like, are they talking about a soul or this consciousness that's inside these robots? Like I wasn't sure exactly what they meant, and at that point I'm like, I could use a little bit more exposition and a little more explanation. Of course, eventually that does kind of come, which was nice, but it took a while. I think it was like 45 minutes in or something like that, and they're finally talking about what the ghost is, and that it is, the kind of the personality, the mind, the
data.
Yeah, like all of it,
and stuff.
Well, it's like if you're nothing without your ghost. So, and that's true like for living. So in this instance of a cyberization, once your ghost is gone, you can't be brought back. So if your ghost box is destroyed, which they don't talk about that in the movie, like they don't really show what a human brain inside of a ghost box looks like.
Okay.
Once that's gone, or once it's destroyed or fried, that's it. You can't bring back a ghost.
Okay.
There's no hard drive backup.
No, I know that Motoko actually does offload her memories though, which you can do.
Gotcha.
You can download them into,
but they have to
like
be
just
intact.
a stored bank. Yeah, but and then you can reaccess them like externally.
Okay.
So
yeah,
But
I
then
thought it was
there's a whole
that's
lot.
not enough to then upload into a new
No.
body, because there's no like spark. That's just memories or.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's just like think something static versus a dynamic like psyche. And also in my mind, in relation to the puppet master, that's how you could create a more perfect AI, because if you uploaded actual like feeling memories like that, it could augment what an AI can do. versus it just being pure data.
Yeah.
So
It's complicated.
Yeah.
this whole thing is like much bigger than it like appears in 90 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, for me, that's part of like I started. I was probably an hour plus into this movie the first time I had watched it for taking notes for this show, and I was really into the action of it all, and but some of the more philosophical stuff was washing over me a little bit, and then I was like, I need to go to bed. I need to pause this. So I did that. I came back in the morning and finished watching the movie, and then throughout the rest of the day, it just kept eating at me, and I kept thinking about it and thinking about the what this movie is really about, which is this AI life wants this identity. It wants person status, and started thinking about Data from Star Trek, and how some of my favorite episodes from Next Generation are typically Data episodes. And there's one called Measure of a Man, where they like Starfleet is just gonna come in and take Data, because they're like, well, you're property, so we're just gonna take you and we're gonna figure out what makes you tick, and maybe mass produce you and that sort of thing. And the crew of the Enterprise is like, it's Data. You can't just take him because he's property. He's a person. And the whole episode is like they just end up having a trial whether or not Data is a person, and at the end of the episode, they come to the conclusion that he is a life form. He's artificial life form, but he deserves, to exist and make his own choices and everything. And there are a few more episodes throughout Next Generation that kind of touch on this. What does it mean to be alive and that sort of thing? And once I started thinking about Ghost in the Shell from that point of view, and really thinking about the Puppet Master, it all just started clicking with me, and I ended up just kind of falling in love with the movie. And that's what made me, like, as soon as I had a chance, I started to watch the movie again with the commentary on, and I don't know, it really went a long way with me to like that part of the story really worked. So,
well, yeah, I mean, that's the feeling I think it's going for, is to get conversation going.
Yeah.
I mean, it's it's perfect for like a philosophy class or something.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
it's a lot of what is life questions.
Yeah. There's also like when you honed in on the Puppet Master and what it means to be an actual like person, and I honed in on on the other side of the coin, the aspect of augmented reality and how the government is augmenting it already for their benefit.
Okay.
Or like how much of society's reality is augmented in this realm, because your first instance of like who the Puppet Master is in this movie is people's ghosts getting hacked and them seeing and feeling things that they shouldn't. That is not reality, right?
Yeah, the garbage
so
man.
like the garbage man with the wife, he doesn't even have a wife, it's all fake.
Yeah.
Right.
Brutal.
But him getting hacked like that, and then also his partner who's like just going along with it. It's like how much, because there is a certain level of cyberization across society, because that's the norm. It's mostly super abnormal for you to be 100% organic without augmentation. That's where you see like the homeless people and stuff,
Right.
like they just can't afford it. But after a certain, you start augmenting yourself to a certain degree, how much are you introducing the potential for you to not even know your own reality anymore?
Yeah. I mean, I literally just watching this thought immediately about social media and how it's augmented some people's views of the world based on what they read and
Sure.
what they're exposed to.
Yeah. If you only consume data from one source, you tend to look at the world in one way or something. Yeah.
Yeah, it's frightening.
Yeah,
That's for sure.
I was just thinking about the this garbage man that we meet, and something that they brought up in the commentary is how this movie really shows you from like the top down. Like you see this, the ambassadors and people in the government, and they're in these tall buildings and things, and then it takes you quickly to the street level with these guys collecting the garbage, and the guy who I guess the hacker who goes up against the major, in that action scene, and these are people that they'll never afford implants, or like it's almost sets up as a caste system, and like people like Bato and the major, they're kind of in the middle. It's like they're never going to be in the upper society, but they're still on the street level, but they're still above maybe the people like the hacker guy, and I don't know, just it brought up interesting points about what your standing is in society.
Yeah, because you see so many suits walking around of like movers and shakers between the sections, and how out of touch they are.
Yeah.
I guess. I don't know how many of them, because they never establish it anyway, but like how many of them are fully cyberized too, which also is like, if you're fully cyberized like the major, what does your lifespan look like now? Like, how long, I don't think they've ever answered that either. How long, like as a whole series, like how long can you live with just your ghost? And I think it's actually, okay, it's going to be a long time, because one of my I'm going to like just allude to one of my favorite episodes in the standalone complex. It kind of fits in the podcasting movie lover realm. There is a director as a character, and he made a film that was so controversial no one would show it. And it was his ultimate life's work. So he locked it in his own ghost, and he only existed as a ghost box. And you can copy ghost boxes. They're counterfeit. They're not real. Like, you can like shut them down and not kill him or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's how he like disseminated his film on the black market. And eventually, again, Travis, if you like the AI aspect, there's a whole AI aspect to the series. They're called Tachikomas, and they're like little spider AI robots.
Okay.
One of the Tachikomas finds the original director's ghost on accident. And it's this whole, he lives in his ghost, because you can dive into somebody's ghost in reality.
Sure.
So the major dives in and meets him. And he's old. And when they look him up when she comes out, he looks like he's in his 20s or 30s. But in his ghost, he's like in his 60s, in his own mind's reality. But he shows the film in this like underground theater. But people get stuck in his ghost because they don't want to leave, because that's how like good the film is.
Oh wow.
It's like existential. So people never go back to their reality if they dive in to watch the movie.
So he's like one of those fish with the lights on their head at the bottom of the ocean that they draw in things.
But the thing is he wasn't doing it out of malice.
Sure.
Like, he was truly just trying to like show art. And then it just drew a fandom so strong that people never went back to their reality. And he was like a wanted criminal in the government because of that. And it wasn't his intention.
Yeah, I mean, I could totally see that. I mean, there's fandom where I could see Star Wars people wanting to stay into that world. I mean,
oh man,
just like full dive into a Star Wars, like George Lucas's brain or something.
Yeah,
or
I could
think
see
about
that
like
happening.
if in another 5 to 10 years, if they've already got this, the VR like Vader games. Give
Mm-hmm.
it a few,
Oh, yeah.
give it a couple more years, and you might be able to like live in there. Basically,
Mm-hmm.
people wouldn't
You're
want to leave
stepping
that.
into Sword Art Online.
Oh my
Okay.
god. Full dive video games
Yeah.
that you can get hurt in the game and hurt in real life.
Yeah. Yeah, it's messed up.
So I guess like that establishes that as long as your ghost is still intact and maintained, because there has to be like electricity going to the there's like a life support system that goes along with the ghost box. As long as that's not compromised, I'm assuming you can probably live forever.
Yeah, you just need maintenance. So they keep talking
Yeah.
about in the movie anyway. Gotta have regular
Yeah.
maintenance. Yeah, theoretically, it could just keep going. I don't know if there's any like data degradation or anything like that occurs, like kind of like a cybernetic Alzheimer's or something.
Oh man.
That'd be terrifying.
Yeah.
But hey, we've really this has gone exactly how I thought it would.
Sorry.
We would
No,
go
I
into
like
some rabbit
off-railed
hole
that.
No, it's fine.
That's what it should be.
I knew it was gonna go this way.
I want to quickly touch on some of the art that I noticed in sequences, like just with when we meet the garbage men, for example, and they're going around the city, they're picking up garbage, and they get into the cab, and you can tell that they're putting their truck into reverse and turning it around and then pulling forward. And you can tell that because of the way the shadows are moving across their face. And you don't get that type of like detail in animation with, your anything outside of anime. And it was so beautiful. That's a little 2-second moment of just them playing with the lighting. And then stuff like there's a few minutes later, once the chase kind of starts happening with the hacker that they catch up to. And all they do is they take this beautiful matte painting of this alleyway, and it's basically, sky right in the middle and then tall buildings on either side. And they just start slowly panning like up as they kind of zoom in. And so it's a perfect trick of using a flat image and just the way you pan on that image. There's no animation in there. It's just a flat painting. And they pair that with some Foley sound of shoes running through a wet pavement. And it just completely works. And it kind of puts you in the POV of the guy running down the alley. So it's stuff like that I noticed that I've never really seen before. Or they probably did stuff like that in Akira and other stuff, but just nothing that like jumped out at me the way this did. So
Yeah, with the guy in the alley that was, I guess, shooting up the garbage truck. I'm totally blanking his name, but I felt like I was with him, like along for the journey when they'd show him like all alone.
Yeah,
and like they'd keep showing up over his head, like when he was running through like the drainage area with the bridges that go overhead.
Yeah.
So I was like kind of getting nervous with him, like where are they coming from, where are they at?
Yeah.
So I thought
I
it was
also
really
like
well
that.
done.
I like that when they do stuff like that, your brain automatically goes, "Oh no, he's like the villain. He's the puppet master." Like you don't think about anything else.
Yeah.
Just that moment that you're in as it's panning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I don't know. It was intense, that's for sure.
I want to jump just a little bit ahead to unless you have stuff between this and the sequence where she is diving, because I thought that moment was going to be like a flashback to her life before being, I don't know, turned into a cyborg.
She doesn't ever talk about that.
Yeah. Because I think going into it, and still at this point, it's like I'm expecting this movie to go a different direction, because I knew that like really all I knew about the story was the vague little bits of it I remembered from watching it as a kid, and then knowing that they created a backstory for Scarlett Johansson's character that I thought was going to be a part of this, that like, oh, we had to put your mind into another body. So I thought that was part of this story too. So I'm expecting, like, when I see this diving sequence when she's underwater, I thought, okay, this was her life beforehand, because like Bato, I'm surprised that she, as a, titanium shell, like, I'm surprised that she's gonna be underwater doing this stuff. So that moment, I think is setting up a completely different story of like her background and stuff like that. And then she just comes up and her and Bato have a nice little private moment on the boat. And so it's just, this movie was constantly surprising me in ways like that.
Well, it's kind of reminiscent of the birthing process that her body goes through.
Oh yeah.
Where they're in the water or some kind of chemical stew, whatever they're in.
Yeah.
So I could see that. I think that goes back to what I thought the ghost was when I originally watched it, and I thought it was like they copy a human brain, and I thought it was the ghost of that person's brain. Like I thought it was like a remnant.
Okay.
That somehow got transferred over in the copy. So I thought there was like a piece of that, I guess, former person's like consciousness that made it into the shell, if you will. So I think that's where I got into that same boat as you, Travis. I thought she was like reliving something or going to.
Yeah. I kept waiting for the story to be about her discovering her origin or something like that. So
I think that's what makes this whole like series unique.
Yeah.
Is because they don't really do that with her a lot. They like she's just her.
Right.
And like you get to see bits and pieces, but there's not really like ever a fully fleshed out like hero's origin story or anything.
When I got like towards the end, and I'm like, I'm glad it didn't go the way I was expecting it to go. Like because you don't need that in this story. Like I like the way we meet her, and then by the end of the movie, she meets the puppet master, and they come to this understanding of like what they are and what they're going to be in the future. So
yeah, I like when it's done well, not having all the answers and being able to talk about what you think is going on.
Yeah,
it sucks when it's done poorly, but it's awesome when it's done correctly.
Yeah, I think we struggled a lot with Akira and understanding what the end of that movie is, and it's like I still don't really know if I understand the end of that movie, and but here it's like I like that it was really challenging up front, but at the end of the movie I think I really get what this is all about. So
I feel like movies like Akira and this one and a few others, when it comes to anime, they're either giving you a cautionary tale or they're trying to make you think beyond your own reality. Like Akira does a little bit of both, but their whole thing is like, I guess like throwing it to like other areas of Japanese media. Like Godzilla is a cautionary tale.
Sure.
So I feel like they use entertainment as a medium for teaching society something that they wouldn't seek out themselves sometimes.
It's like a fable back in the old days. It's teaching you a lesson wrapped in a sweet story. That's why some of those kids' tales are so friggin' terrifying if you read them now.
Yeah, like the Grimm fairy tales.
Yeah.
All the real ones and not like the Disney-fied ones.
Not the Disney. But no, same thing. I mean, people tend to not want to hear horrible things, so wrap it up into a package where it might fit better. It's kind of like what you do with your dog. You put the pill into the mushy dog treat or piece of cheese, and they'll take the pill. You just gotta. Same thing.
Yeah.
Wrap this philosophical message in some cool cyberpunk action scenes.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome.
Ghost in the Shell. It's a piece of cheese. There you go. New tagline.
That's the tagline they should have used.
Nice.
Well, didn't think I'd end up there. All right.
Yeah. There's I think some really good detective work going on when we get to the area where you get this blonde, I guess, Shell walking around. She gets hit by the truck. She just kind of they set her up just randomly out on the interstate or whatever, and you find out that she gets hit by a truck, and they bring her in, and you find out that the puppet master is in there, and they start going through this sequence of them trying to talk to her, to it, and at the same time you have Togusa like doing some good detective work where he's realizing like, okay, the men that came in to examine the puppet master, it's like there was enough time for a third, invisible person to be in the elevator with them, and so I really enjoyed that part of it.
Yeah, it was I was like, man, how good is this guy?
He's so well. He got recruited as a normal police detective into a secret government organization. So like,
yeah, he must be pretty good if he's like
pretty
he doesn't
damn good.
Need any enhancements, really.
He's like, normally that door doesn't open that long. It's usually like 2 seconds. Now it's 2.75.
But it's like she says, it's like how many who would have noticed that?
Yeah,
if it
it's
wasn't
just
him.
funny to me. Like I can picture
because like
this
I don't
guy
think
timing all the
Bato would have
doors
noticed
on his
that.
free time or something. Like, oh, guy's gotta get a life. Him and his revolver are too close.
Oh yeah. They say something about how whichever section the I keep wanting. He's not the ambassador, but I keep the diplomat. It's like whatever. Like their section, they don't allow any cyborgs in, but then when they get to talking,
I think that one's the international diplomacy one.
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah, they can't have a cyborg because it's not doesn't leave other countries with a great feeling having a cyborg being diplomatic with them or something.
But then the one guy, I think it's the American guy, goes over to like a keyboard and his fingers just open up, and clearly
the doctor.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That
maybe
was
I
awesome.
mixed him up. Yeah.
He's the doctor who helped create Puppet Master.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he's like an AI like doctor. That's what he got his PhD in like AI and cybernetics and stuff. So
yeah,
he's technically not part of
a robot.
He's a robot doctor.
Yeah, robot doctor.
He's a robot doctor.
Robot doctor
with robotic fingers.
Yeah.
I love those
perfectly
hands,
not confusing.
Man. That's the coolest thing.
Well, and you see him later that help me with the chief's name.
You can just call him the chief.
Okay.
Pretty much everybody does.
Okay. Like later on when he's kind of controlling the op, or at least in the command center, he's got these two like they just like twin, young girls basically, and they have the same like fingers, and you can tell that they're both cyborgs.
So they're androids.
Oh, okay.
Section 9 has like, this is something they don't establish either, Travis, so it's not your fault. They have like a squad of like just like androids that help them too.
So what's the difference in a cyborg and an android?
No ghost.
Oh.
It's just that they do their job. It's like robots taking your job kind of thing. Like it's like they help do like the heavy lifting like that of just data crunch.
So he's like spouting out all those things to do while they're trying to track down the puppet master. Yeah. They're just like they're listening and doing.
Mm-hmm. So. Ishikawa also has a squad to help him do recon.
Had a stamp press and made them look alike or something.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It could be a way to know that those are the androids if you make them all look alike, I guess.
They do, because even in the future, at least in the standalone complex, they all still look like that. All the girls.
It's like, why give them features? Why not just have them be like very
maybe it's more unnerving seeing somebody, like R2-D2 or C-3PO or something.
Right, yeah.
I don't know.
They're not there yet as a society.
Yeah.
I don't know. But, yeah, I mean, it escalates quickly once the Puppet Master starts talking.
Yeah. It's a good conversation. The Puppet Master is talking about, being an AI life form and all that, and it's
Needing
like
asylum.
you want. Yeah. And I love the bit where he talks about asking the diplomat, like, how do you prove you're alive? Kind of throwing it back on him. So
it really like digs in at this point where like philosophically trying to debate what is human life, and everyone says it's the soul. What's the soul? It's like bits of information in your genes. How's that different from me? Like,
right. And
you come
DNA,
from
like
yeah,
like isn't that just the same thing as code? Sort of that sort of thing.
I like the analogy he does where he comes from the sea of information, and we kind of come from the sea of the ocean with
Sure,
evolution and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's very hitting it on the head, like hammering it in. Like, we're not that different, you and I.
Yeah.
But it's crazy to think that like that could potentially be the next phase of humanity, of not humanity, of like as we move forward in reality in our like IRL life.
Oh yeah,
it's like we could do that. We could do cyberization. There's people already working on cyberization, by the way, but
Sure.
It's like we're one step closer to potentially making Puppet Master a reality.
Yeah.
So take that
What is
as a hopeful or a terrifying thing.
Right. Yeah. It's
Blue, the IBM machine that plays chess and Jeopardy or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah, everybody's working on AI stuff, and I like to think that it's going to go the way of the Tachikoma, and they're adorable, and they really do make you continue to think, but they're super helpful too. But they actually wind up growing more than they should. That stuff
sure.
happens in the series that they're like, the major goes, "We got to stop this. You can't let them do that." So,
yeah. But how do you stop?
How do you stop an AI?
Yeah. How do you? I'm thinking about this kind of in next generation terms. Like, how would you take this life form and say you're not allowed to continue to evolve? Like, we're gonna keep you suppressed now.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's it's just shouldn't be allowed. But then you're also potentially creating the instrument of your destruction. You might be creating the next life form that wipes us out. But it's almost inevitable in some way.
Well, yeah. It's also like we fear and hate what we don't understand.
Yeah.
So, like, why? I don't know. At some points, like, I'm super terrified. Like, every time they put like a new video of a robot doing some crazy shit on the internet, I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, it opened a door. Like, we can't. What's happening? Because then my brain goes.
Now we got Spider-Man swinging around and
oh my god, that freaking thing! Yes, and I was like, wait a minute, we're like two sneezes away from like that Will Smith movie. Like,
yeah,
we can't. I don't want to go out like Terminator style, but at the same time, I'm also like, how much benefit to society would they advance of technology give? Like,
right.
In reality, there's a lot of things that we could, and I don't just say like benefit us, like, oh, the machines, they work for us, like more of like we could seamlessly work it into society like they have if we tried. So I'm more hopeful, but still also terrified.
Yeah.
Currently, I'm more terrified of the movie WALL-E because it's way too close to home.
Oh, WALL-E's gonna happen. Like, that's
Amazon is basically
inevitable.
that mega corporation, and we're all gonna live in floating chairs in space.
Well, see, like, okay, I'm gonna run this off the rails for 1 second again.
Yes,
there's another. I was gonna do this as like a plug if you like Ghost in the Shell, and you maybe have seen like the rest of the franchise, and you're like cool with that. There's another really messed up, almost like AI driven society. Anime called Psychopaths.
Oh yeah.
That I highly recommend.
Yeah.
And it's Travis, it's like if you could take brains from people and use them to make an AI.
Huh.
Like as a collective.
Oh,
There
okay.
like
Okay.
you would kind of mash up all their brains to like run through a system that would be.
So like linking computers together to create a network.
But you're
Okay.
linking human brains. So
Okay.
after people die, or they are picked from society.
Okay. Oh,
So
okay.
because like the whole precursor to this is the society has a crime coefficient.
Mm-hmm.
So the police department has these like decimator guns. They're literally called decimators. And they can scan your crime coefficient to see how dangerous you are.
Nice.
And they change their settings based off of your crime coefficient. So it can go from stunning you to like chunking you based off of how high it is.
Wow. So kind of minority report, like pre-crime, like you have the potential for this much
Yeah.
damage, so you'll. Huh.
Yeah. And then there's so nobody knows where the crime coefficient comes from, and it comes from that AI.
So that kind of reminds me when you talked about like linking brains together. Reminds me of taking it back into comic books, like the Nova Corps in Marvel. Like the what gives a Nova, Nova Prime or Nova Centurion their power, the Nova Force. It's all of the collected. It's called the World Mind, and it's like this big supercomputer that is literally made up of the collected consciousness and like physical brains of all the deceased Xandarian, like Xandar civilization. So when you die, your brain goes into this collective, and it just adds to the Nova Force. So it's just this, essentially the same thing, just a huge terminal of brains all working together that have the collected memories of their entire society, and that's what gives the Nova their power. So
It's very, very similar to that.
yeah.
I'm just thinking there's somebody on Xandar that's like really into this like nerdy show, and they join the collective and bring all this useless trivia with them.
Yeah.
And the rest of the brains are like, son of a...
Yeah. Now we all have this memory.
Can we shut him up, please?
Yeah.
Turn his brain
Somebody's
off
got
for a
like
second.
they got like a jingle stuck in their head, and now everyone's like,
Yeah.
"Da-da-da-da-da-da-da."
Meow meow.
Okay,
meow,
my
meow,
question
meow.
is, in that instance, this is going to sound really weird, can each brain singularly talk through the collective?
I don't believe so. They it kind of becomes one unified voice.
Okay.
And
'Cause
it's called World Mind.
Okay.
But I don't.
It's complicated.
Well, there is one or two moments where, like, to heal, the main Nova Prime like goes into this kind of dream state, and he is surrounded by like all the previous Nova, core. And it kind of like they do that to protect his mind while his body's healing. So I guess the individual voices are still there, but typically it's all just one.
They got a spokes mind.
Okay.
Like the one
Because
that
this is
Yeah.
like
does all the talking.
Yeah.
in an instance of like psychopaths, they have a discussion instead of becoming one. Like it's almost like an ongoing societal conversation
It's like a think
individually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tank. Gotcha. Yeah.
But yeah, I 10 out of 10 would recommend. I love that series if you're into this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And they have movies too, so. But yeah, that was my off the rails moment. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no. that was good. I kind of feel like we need to jump into the third act a little bit and
Yeah.
kind of the final, confrontation between Major and the Puppet Master, because it's all leading up to this, and you get this. They're in like an abandoned natural history museum, which is why you have like on the walls there's these
Like Tree of Life and fossils.
and the fossils. So
all getting destroyed.
yeah, I love this for the action scene of it. It's amazing. It's obviously an inspiration for the finale of The Matrix, just these columns that are just getting destroyed by bullets, but you're just seeing these columns get whittled down to like rebar and like very little else. But like just as an action scene, it's incredible the way it goes from like she doesn't stand a chance, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, like Bato knows that, and he's trying to get to her quickly or as quick as possible, but like she knows what she's up against. This beautiful tank that they introduce here, like it's kind of out of nowhere. It's like, wait, there's like this spider tank, like what the hell? But it's so beautiful the way it moves and the way like she goes up against it. I just love it.
Yeah, I think this let me know how desperate she was to dive into the Puppet Master.
Well, was that her intention?
Yeah, because before all this happened, she was going to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, she has like this. I guess we're gonna go back to her like self-preservation problem. She does this a lot. She not just for her body either. Like she wants to dive into things that she probably shouldn't. A lot because she has this like insatiable need to know more, and I think that's just because she doesn't have her memories. Like, spoiler, I guess.
Sure.
Not really, but like like I know she can offload them, but she doesn't have any of her old ones. So she's like still trying to form herself, and she just has this. She just wants to know everything. Like, what is this like? Like, this is interesting. Everybody's going to tell me no, don't do that, but I'm going to do it anyway because I think on the other side of it I'll be better for it.
Yeah, the desperation here is very evident, especially once she gets onto the spider tank.
Man.
Mm-hmm.
Every time I watch that, I mean, obviously, like I said, I haven't watched it a ton, but like recently, just watching the 2 or 3 times that I kind of went through that scene, I get so sad seeing her on top of that tank, and she's just pulling with all of her strength. And you know that, like, because of what they talk about, like, she has this titanium chassis, and she's, you know, obviously very strong. And so for the fact that it rips her body apart trying to lift this, like, hatch on this tank, you know how physically you know what she's up against, and she's still outmatched. But yeah, it really hits me real hard when her muscles start to just give out, you know, and she's straining against this thing. So it's hard to watch.
Yeah, it's like
you go.
I was just gonna say it's like in my mind I thought about like what are your pain receptors doing right now?
Oh man.
Like, are they a thing? Have you had those turned off because you do this so often? Or
right.
Like,
maybe she can turn them off at will. I don't.
Who knows?
I would hope so. Yeah.
It seems like it. Otherwise, if they were feeling the same pain, I don't think she'd be able to function. She would have like passed out from the pain, for lack of a better way of putting it.
And it's like, if she was able to wait, 15 more seconds, Bato would have been there with his standard issue big gun.
That was an awesome gun.
Yeah, for sure.
Ka-chunk. Just the noise.
He's like the resident tank.
Yeah.
That's the perfect way to
funny.
put him. I guess they get to dive together now.
Yeah.
And it's confusing at first.
Yeah. I love right before that, it's like yet again, the second time that he's covered her up, because the first time, like when she takes out the hacker, she has to strip down to turn invisible, and he comes up to her and puts his coat around her, and then here again, once the Puppet Master and the Major are both laying kind of side by side, he's got her covered again, just because that it kind of shows like how much he cares for her,
Yeah, it's still weird to me because she doesn't treat her shell as a, I guess, sexual thing, or
sure, yeah,
like sex doesn't seem to matter, like male, female, whatever.
Yeah,
but to him it matters, so it's a very one-sided thing. It's just very interesting to see unfold.
I guess the one thing that I wish that maybe they had taken maybe 10 minutes in a movie to do is like make you feel. I feel like for section 9 they only made you care about Togusa, Bato, and the Major, and you got to see like their relationships with each other. But
Sure.
the whole team really treats each other like that, except the Major. She's like, so I guess for lack of a better phrase, like out of touch.
Yeah.
But they all like have such a love and respect for one another that kind of like you don't get to see. You're only seeing it with like really like Bato and her.
Okay.
But they do have like this almost like camaraderie, family,
Yeah.
ride or die aspect for all of the team. So
Yeah. I liked I think Togusa when Bato took his car
Yeah.
and told him to get the Major backup. He's like, wait, why does the Major need backup? She never needs backup.
Huh.
Like, there's like that and the banter they have with the Major and Togusa earlier in the movie. Like, it's weird. She's almost like a emotionally distant relative or something, but they still, love her and, care for her. They just know how she is, kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's just the Major. She's just like that. But
it's like the big
it's complicated. It's a very interesting dynamic they all have.
yeah, it's like the big otherworldly sister. Here she is.
Yeah.
She thinks she's the shit, but she needs help sometimes.
Yeah.
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 Especially when dealing with giant tanks and puppet
Mhm.
masters.
Yeah, and like the idea of cyber procreation.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to put that any other way in my notes.
No, that works.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess it's evolution. Like
Yeah.
cybernetic evolution, and I guess melding of the experiences is like conception to them, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and he points out that the puppet master points out that, humans can mix their DNA and procreate that way. And she says, well, what can't you just copy yourself? And, like the point that the puppet master makes about a copy of a copy can over time degrade. It can get corrupted. It can cease to, it's not progress. It's just, you just be staying like stagnant. That's not evolving.
Kind of explain like their I guess data is like our genes.
Yeah.
It records experience and decisions, consciousness, whatever you want to call it, but they kind of equate data to genes, and the only way to kind of replicate reproduction is to kind of meld the data into and experiences that they've each had into a new entity, being, consciousness, ghost, whatever.
Right.
Although it does seem that she, at the end of the movie, gets more of the lead on that.
Yeah. On the surface,
Because she was
it
worried
seems like
about
she's
that
more
during the conversation. Like, what do I get out of this?
Sure.
What's going to happen? Like, you don't know.
So yeah, cyber procreation.
Who knew that was a thing?
It made me think of if you've ever seen Demolition Man with what's his face, Sylvester Stallone, and I'm blanking on her name.
Sandra Bullock.
Sandra Bullock, yeah. And they have like those mind rings on because physical contact's not allowed anymore.
Yeah.
And they have like mental intercourse, I guess.
Right.
That's weird.
It made me think
I've
of
never
that.
seen that movie.
Oh, it's a fun movie.
It's so stupid, but awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I guess in this term, like the puppet master was like, no, we'll just mind meld.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We will become one.
It reminded me a lot of the first Star Trek movie with the resolution with V'ger and how it's this basically it's an AI that ends up melding with, he's like the third or fourth in command, kind of under Kirk and Spock and those guys, and he melds with V'ger, and essentially moves into a higher plane of existence. Kind of this better understanding of the universe and all that. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like how they explain it of like she'll never be the same after that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like childbirth. That's fine, but I feel like it's also she really isn't in the rest of the series like the same. She visibly is different.
Yeah. Well, I noticed that, and Patrick, you mentioned it earlier about her blinking.
Yeah.
But throughout the movie, I did notice that she does blink or close her eyes, every now and then throughout the movie. But until once she takes on the tank, and like from that moment on, like, I mean, not that there's much movie left, but she doesn't blink a single time from that point on.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought it was interesting. Like once she's
focused.
I don't know. Yeah, focused and like not and kind of doing away with like those kind of gestures and like trying to appear human, and any of that just is out the window.
Oh, you think she's consciously putting on a show by blinking occasionally?
Kind of, or maybe like, yeah, or maybe kind of like what you were talking about with the pain receptors and turning that off. It's like maybe there's some like subroutine of like, I'm going to turn off, my human protocol just to save up as much,
Sure.
memory and
Mm-hmm.
resources and devote it all to this, what I thought was going to be this mind battle between her and Puppet Master, but it really just, it becomes this like coming to an understanding,
Well, yeah, I mean, they're very much alike, and they say it a couple times throughout the movie, just with their curiosity, I think, and kind of need for more. I mean, they're totally different, coming from totally different areas, because Puppet Master, I keep saying he because of the voice. But he seems to have been, it seems to have been birthed from the network and a programmer in that Section 6 group. I mean, I can't quite put my finger on its origin, other than Section 6 had something to do with maybe manipulating data to create this AI that kind of got out of control.
But that's like what's so weird to me. Like, I guess I didn't think about it, and now I'm gonna have to go back and like.
Because he didn't have a body before. Right?
I don't know if there's he hopped in, or they Puppet Master hopped into the body.
Yeah.
But it's like after this conversation with AI, like that they're introducing into Ghost in the Shell, like again, moving forward, Section 9 implements AI, and I don't know if it's because this happened, and I don't know if this is also like a weird conversation that I need to like have with myself / go back and rewatch the beginning of the series again, but are the Tachikomas the children remnants of this experience?
Gotcha.
Because they had to come from somewhere, and they're really advanced for being like a new technology that they have. So and they're all little girls. all the Tachikomas are like little girl spider tanks.
Gotcha.
So
yeah, it gets complicated.
Who knows? Maybe they're the Major's kids.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of thought of Puppet Master kind of like either Jarvis or Ultron in the MCU. Mm-hmm. Like you get that vibe, but on drastically different ways of handling it, I guess.
Right.
Where it's like a data-driven entity that becomes more and more. So it's just interesting, like this take on it, and kind of the evolution that both the Puppet Master and oh my god, I just blinked on her name. The Major, jeez.
Yeah.
Want to. They're both interested, but I think for maybe different reasons. So it's just very cool to see like the villain and the hero become one. I don't know.
Yeah.
Something satisfying about that. Just opposites,
Which is weird because I know that Travis is going to ask this later, and I picked different heroes and villains.
Oh,
okay.
In this, so
sure.
Well, I just meant from the beginning of the story.
Yeah.
It's a hero and villain
for sure.
But yeah.
Yeah, I think of the Puppet Master more like Vision now.
Yeah. I completely agree.
Yeah.
The part for me at this point and thinking about it and putting thoughts down, you know, in my notes, and like taking everything into account, like I was talking about data and AI, and like just the fact that this movie would go on to be you know, obviously be a big part of inspiration for The Matrix, and look at who made The Matrix, you know, at the time, two brothers who are now two sisters, you know, because they, you know, they you know, went through you know, this gender identity, and I think a lot of that is in here. Like, this movie to me, like it talks a lot about the struggle of who you are, and you know, what your identity is, and you know, is artificial intelligence life. And you know, I mean, right now we're in June, it's Pride Month. There's so much like going on in the world right now that we live in, with trans rights and civil rights and acceptance, and you know, where everyone deserves equality. And in this movie in 95, they're talking about, you know, like, does this artificial intelligence deserve, you know, equality? And I think it does. And I don't know, it just, I think it just hit me at the right exact moment watching it, just how important the struggle in this movie is, and how much it really speaks to, like, we're still, you know, struggling with that in the real world. And it's like,
yeah, I had written down too, like, there were two big takeaways, especially from the conversation that they had, was like, what makes you you and what makes you unique. And like, society now, like, talking about it in terms of ours, like, I feel like people put a lot of, not everyone, but people put a lot of idea on like your personal style, like what fandoms you're a part of, like all that makes you unique. But it's really like, boil it down, and in this instance, it's literally your mind that makes you different. Like, how do you process things? Like, how do you see the world? Like, what lens do you look through to experience everything that you have? It's not about any outward anything. It's not about any weird little niche quirky thing. It's literally you, and your interpretation makes you unique.
Yeah. That reminded me, and something I was thinking about, and going down that Matrix road with this, you know, the character in the Matrix, Switch, the one who's like, she's blonde, you know, she ends up being killed, I don't know, halfway through the movie maybe. The reason she's called Switch is because in the really real world, like, she's male, but through the Matrix you can be whoever you know, want to be, or who you feel you are. You know, I think that just speaks, not that has necessarily anything to do with this, but I think it relates in my mind of just like, yeah, the idea of identity was what obviously I came away with thinking a lot about. And I think that's just such an important message from this movie, that going into it, I just thought this was going to be a movie about a lady who's a robot cop, and she's going to fight against like some robot terrorist, you know, especially because it starts out with like this ambassador and diplomatic immunity. And like, I did not think that it was going to go down the road of, you know, the way it did. I was so blown away with where this movie ends up at, and especially thinking about it more, and then rewatching it, you know, with the added but commentary, you know, just long way of saying, like, I ended up loving this movie. So
I forgot how terrifying this movie ended.
Oh.
I had
her,
nightmares with the
her new body.
Yeah, the Annabelle-esque body, where it's like
okay.
I don't know, it was like, it unnerved me. Like, I forgot about that. Like this, like the child body that she gets as a backup. Oh,
yeah.
Like, she looked like a creepy doll to me. It just freaked me out.
Well, and dressed up and the way she was,
very Lolita.
That's such a bizarre. Okay, so like, talking about that, then Bato comes in and like says that that's the only body he could find.
Yeah.
That means. That insinuates in this instance that she's a fugitive.
Yeah.
Now, because of what she did.
Yeah.
that's also a reoccurring theme with the section.
Yeah, okay.
They do a lot of stuff that they shouldn't do, and stuff happens like this. But it's so interesting that he like got her a new body, and now she has to go off and like reconcile what happened. Like, do what she needs to do with what she did with the puppet master.
Yeah, she's like, now what? What does the new one do? Or what did she say at the end? Like, what is? There's something she said about like kind of acknowledging that she's not who she was, and
right.
It was just a awesome ending, albeit creepy visual.
I do like that she, I like that she goes away from like, because it starts out, she wakes up in this new body and has this childlike voice, but I like that shifts back into the major voice that we know.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was happy the voice went back to normal because the creepy kid voice is not my favorite.
I do wish that there was a little bit more puppet master personality in this, the little epilogue, I guess, of the movie, because it just feels like Bato's talking to the Major, and she obviously talks about like, well, I'm no longer the Major, but I'm also not the puppet master. I'm something else, and
maybe her personality was the dominant gene or something.
That could be
kind of
and that would make sense. Her her personality would have the more experience. She's been the Major longer than the puppet master had been.
I think isn't the puppet master like 6 or 7 years old?
Something like
they
that.
mention. Like when the Project 2501 or whatever started, like 6 or 7 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So technically, it's like a small, like toddler, a small child.
Yeah.
If you want to equate it to like human lifespan.
Well, that's like one of my favorite moments in Age of Ultron. Is that final confrontation between the last surviving Ultron bot and Vision, and he's like, "Well, I was born yesterday." You know?
Oh, yeah. I watched that last night, actually, after Ghost in the Shell.
Nice. That's an underrated movie.
Yeah. All right. I think that's the movie.
I think so. I mean, yeah.
We've
absolutely.
delved off into many a realm of, I guess, what is life and what is human.
But I think that's I think that's the best way to talk about this movie. Should we do most heroic and most villainous? I mean, I'm definitely interested to see where that'll take us.
Sure.
Let's do most heroic first. Let's do most villainous.
This planet, these people, they are nothing to me.
You were made to be ruled.
The universe's power! You unstoppable power! Come to me, son of Jor-El! Kneel before Zod! And I am that force! I am that power!
In the end, you will always kneel.
Kneel before your master!
I can start. I've got, just because I took it harder, I'll say the what they did to the garbage man was pretty villainous and messed up.
Sure.
Like, I just felt so bad for that garbage man, and the way he was used. I mean, it's hard to equate, intent with it from our point of view, but just from a human's point of view, that was pretty brutal.
It's like, poor guy had a whole wife and a life in his head.
And a child that adored him, but
dang,
it was just the realization was haunting. But yeah, that's what I'll go with.
Okay. I want to do the after the puppet master escapes from like they're having that confrontation with him, and then the place gets like raided or whatever, and it's a way for the puppet master to escape. And then the guy says, the diplomat in charge is like, call Megatech and get another body prepared. So once we get the puppet master back, we'll just upload him into this body, and just this idea that he's trying to mastermind and control and keep the puppet master contained. And but it's, for one, you think you would just like keep him as a brain in a jar, don't give him a body, like if you don't want things to go south, but you obviously want to control this, and the way I see it is you want to weaponize this, use it for your own gain. So I view that guy as kind of the villain of the movie. I don't think that's a big stretch,
But that's I guess that's, you're supposed to, because that's where it's the most messed up, right?
Yeah.
You can see that it's the Ministry of Internal Affairs is what it's called. They have an agenda, and Section 6 has an agenda. They don't line up, and they're both fighting for the puppet master. And I think that coupled with what Travis said is literally like my villain of the whole thing. Is like the same reason why that's the side of the coin I took watching this, is like government organizations like manipulating society. That's the most villainous, because then we're all the trash man.
Yeah.
We're literally all him. We're getting manipulated exactly like he did, just on a different scale and probably for a longer period of time. So we don't really know like what is reality and what is fed to you through your ghost kind of thing.
The Matrix. Yeah, which group was it that decided if we can't have him, nobody can, and called the snipers? Was that 6 or the international?
I think it was 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because 6 and 9 have this long-standing problem with each other.
Okay. All right. So, do we want to go on to most heroic?
Yeah.
I believe there's a hero in all of us
I just finally know what I have to do.
that keeps us honest,
I'm here to fight for truth and justice in the American way.
gives us strength,
You will give the people of Earth an ideal to strive towards.
makes us noble.
And I know in my heart that it's right.
Mine is pretty straightforward with the Major going up against the tank, knowing she's outgunned, like literally, just physically outmatched, but is willing to sacrifice. Like for me, sacrifice is a big deal. Like I really, I love the theme of that. So that's my heroic moment.
Okay. What about you, Johnny?
Togusa, his constant detective work. Like, I feel like if he hadn't have noticed what was going on right away, the chief might have died.
Yeah.
And if the chief dies, that's big crap.
Oh,
so because that's the entire head of Section 9. So it's like, and also the Ministry of Internal Affairs and Section 6 would have gotten away with it because they're the only kind of power check that's going on right now.
Right.
And without Togusa noticing like that like slight offness, things could have gone very differently for the rest of the movie.
That's a good point. That's really cool.
All right. I'll go with the only one that could possibly be left, and Bato and his sacrifice of the arm.
Oh, yeah.
And kind of the willingness to go through with it to begin with.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't like it, but he knew that's what she needed. And then protected her as best as he could. Then, unfortunately, followed it up with a tiny girl body. But,
Yeah. And he's already got a brand new arm by that point.
Yeah.
Because he says it's like it was 2
hell?
days, I think.
That's what I was like.
Fully...
You couldn't get her something better? You got a pretty much identical arm. Like, what the hell? That would have been awesome if he had like a tiny child arm instead.
Yeah.
He's got like this one little tiny teenager arm, and then his huge muscly arm on the other side. But I like he didn't know what the hell was going on. He couldn't hear her anymore. Like,
yeah,
from his angle, it must have been terrifying because he sees her talking with the puppet master voice. Like,
right,
it had to be a trip for him. But the fact that he ended up saving, I guess, the shell of the Major, even though the puppet master was using it to talk.
That surprised me too, that he wouldn't try to shield the other one. But I think it's like he's he connects more to her the visual the body, not in a crude way, but just like
either that or her body's in better shape than the puppet master's body.
Well,
I don't know.
She actually has a ghost. She has a ghost. He doesn't.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally forgot. Yeah.
You got to think like he's more android than he is cyberized human.
Oh.
So he's hacking into her with data.
Yeah.
And so she's, as long as, like I said before, as long as they protect her ghost and her like brain in the life support box, like she can be transferred. So Bato knew that and was like, I need to deflect this enough to protect that, at least that part of her body.
Yeah, that makes sense. I forget the puppet master is like a free range ghost almost from the networks.
Right.
And hers is the actual stereotypical, protected hardware ghost or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I always forget that because it's like he's kind of got a ghost, but doesn't. Like, that confuses them at first with the body that walked in front of the truck. Like, how did this body or shell move without a ghost comment?
Right.
Yeah,
I think I got mixed up because the way it ends with the two of them laying there, and the Major has gone into the puppet master's body, and they've switched bodies, but I guess not. The ghost didn't go from one to the other. It's just
it gets complicated.
Yeah.
All right. So I think that's the good and the bad.
I think so. How about we rate it?
Yeah. I mean, 5 out of 5. Boring. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay.
I love this thing.
No. I was at a 4. Not for me either. I was at a 4, and then the more I thought about it, and then rewatching it, I'm like, no, this is definitely a 5, because like as it built up in my head more and more the day after I watched it, and I got so much more out of it just in the routes that I went down. I appreciated this movie so much more after giving it a little bit more time. So I'm definitely at a 5.
I'm a 5.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. I mean, it's a 90-minute movie, and look at us. We're still talking.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, a 90-minute movie with like a literal philosophical / existential crisis attached to it. So
yeah, I went down a rabbit hole with this thing.
We can just assume that the live action one is also a 5 out of 5. So I'll go ahead and update our spreadsheet with.
Yeah, that's what Johnny said. It was a shot-for-shot recreation, just as good.
Yeah,
absolutely not.
Completely faithful to the original.
Yeah.
Don't throw me under the bus with this. No. If you want to watch it, it's fun, but
yeah,
we'll be hearing from
I
Johnny's
am
lawyers.
gonna watch it. I just want to. Yeah. I think I will watch it soon. I want to see. On the surface level, I just want to see the visuals, see those in live action form.
You just want to see a car wreck, Travis. Don't lie. You just want to see the chaos ensue.
If you want to see a live action Puppet Master, that's a draw.
Someday I'll look at it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just can't bring myself to watch it.
Well, Johnny, where can people hear you more?
You can hear me more at Austin Powers Minute. I'm on Spotify. I think I'm everywhere.
Yeah.
I don't know how, but I am. Just search it up, and I'm there somehow. And then, obviously, I pop around and guest from time to time, so you might hear my voice on another podcast that you like. So that'll just be a fun surprise for you.
Until last recording, we didn't know she was going to be on this episode, so. But I'm certainly glad that you did. Yeah, thank you for joining us.
Of course. Thank you for having me back, even though I kind of like muscled my way in.
No. Yeah, that's, I think that's the best way. Guesting with authority.
Yeah, just listen. Any anime ever, like, call me. I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm in.
Does anyone have any recommendations? I know Johnny, you kind of recommended some stuff throughout. I didn't know if you have anything else you want to add. Patrick, if you have anything that you've been checking out lately. I want to update my recommendation from we talked about a while back. Patrick, you had mentioned Jupiter's Legacy, And I was like, yeah, I watched one episode. It felt like a cheap knockoff of everything else. But then we started watching it, actually, and I started getting into it, and then they cancel it. So
I was just going to say, I hope you didn't really get into it.
No, we didn't finish it. They finally get to the island. I haven't seen any further than that, so I don't know if that's like halfway through the series or like 3/4 of the way, but I'm never going to finish it.
It ends on a good spot. And maybe it'll get picked up somewhere else. I don't know, but yeah. I guess it cost a lot, so that's why I got pulled.
Yeah.
But let's see. Last time I recommended Invincible on Amazon. Still holds up.
Yeah.
I'm watching. This is more off the beaten path, but I'm watching a Disney show with my kid. It's called I think it's called The Secret or The Mystery of Sulphur Springs. It's like a kind of a mystery movie with some time travel built in, and it's been fun so far. We watched like 4 episodes, so good one for kids.
Just like Ghost in the Shell.
Yeah, good for kids.
I guess to recap, if you like this, go watch Standalone Complex. There are 2 seasons. It's fantastic. Like I said, Psychopaths if you're into AI. And my left field option if you're still wanting more animated content. And kind of like, I don't like horror, but I really like this. It's called Soul Station. It's also on Amazon Prime, I think. It's an animated prequel to Train to Busan.
Oh, okay.
So it kind of fleshes out where the zombie part starts, where you're kind of being thrown into it at Train to Busan. So not Japanese, but Korean, but still animated, still amazing, still kind of like a wild ride for your brain too. So
all right.
Right on.
All right. I think that's about it.
I think so. We definitely, I think, had a lot to thought about. Yeah.
Had a glitch there.
Yeah, just a little bit, the glitch in the Matrix. So next movie we've got is Tank Girl. I'm looking forward to that one because I've never seen it before.
Is that Lori Petty?
Yep. And Ice-T?
Yeah.
What?
I've never seen
voice
this either.
as the voice of a kangaroo.
What?
Yeah,
and that's
a bizarre one.
That's all I know about this movie.
What fever dream of a movie is that?
Yeah, it's some I think maybe a British comic, I think.
Yeah.
It kind of looks like Mad Max a little bit. I don't know.
It'll be interesting.
Yeah.
We'll see if well, I guess we have a female protagonist. Well, if you can call the major a female anyway.
Oh yeah.
So we got a heck of a role there.
Yeah.
So we'll keep it going with Tank Girl. Can't wait to see what that's about.
Hopefully it's a fun time. I have no idea what to expect. But
hey, I noticed Johnny's not chomping at the bit to get on this.
Nope, I have no idea what that movie is.
Yeah.
I was like, cool. What?
Yeah, tune in to find out what the heck Ice-T and Lori Petty are doing. I don't even know if I want to watch that one.
I don't even know where we're going to watch that one.
Yeah.
But, that's a problem for another day. But
all right.
I guess until that day, stay safe out there, citizens.
It's the year 2033. There's no law. No mercy.
You're gonna really love this one.
And no water.
There are 3 million liters of water underneath the blue dunes, and you will retrieve it.
The odds of survival are 1,000 to 1. And that's just the way she likes it.
My. Talented, isn't she?
Hi! Feeling a little inadequate?
She'll be fun to break.
I like pain.
Lori Petty.
Do hurt you yet.
Ice-T,
Turn this boat around and you're gonna get us all killed.
and Malcolm McDowell.
Just how many of my men did you kill?
United Artists Pictures presents.
Just say, I won.
I won.
Tank Girl.
What's it like knowing you're about to die?
You don't
Thanks for listening to the podcast. Find the show on Facebook and Twitter at Real Comic Heroes. All music and audio are the property of their respective creators.